Third round of the Kumho Tyres New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship is proudly brought to you by Real Dairy Australia and these valued partners.
The third round started off in dramatic circumstances with Billy Chetton, the points leader, crashing out in qualifying.
No, we had a bit of a bad luck on the hairpin. Coming out of the hairpin, we put the power down and rear end sort of stepped out and just wouldn't recover and ended up on the inside wall, unfortunately.
And the damage is too severe to repair for this meeting?
It's not a big damage. It always looks worse than what it is, but the parts that we can put on, it's just we've got to go back to the shop and then fix it and bring it back. So we don't know yet. I think we're probably out for the weekend.
Well, we're going to only hope that you're back for the Super 70 meeting in September, firing against the National boys.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that, so hopefully we'll be back for that.
Race 1 is just about to get underway for rolling start. Steve Lacey on the pole position will lead this group, we think, into turn 1.
Got a bit of wheel spin there away from the line, didn't he? And now you can just see around the outside comes Willem Thurcher. Great move. He got the drive from second place on the grid. Brad Shields in Joe Seds. Beautiful little rotary Fiat back out here this weekend, and then just slotting in behind Steve Lacey's Nick Mantikos, who had a great qualifying session, Gary.
He certainly did. Interesting that Lacey's now dropped back to third position, as we can see in the foreground there that Shields has got through the lead, taken it away from Furcher in that LS-powered Toyota 86. An ex-time attack car that's come on pretty brilliantly. It won here the last round, even though he wasn't driving it. Scott Cameron was in the car and took the points for the day.
Of course, Steve Lacey now without Beryl Chetton there, just looking to collect the championship points. So he won't be wanting to get involved in this fight too early. He'll settle in, make sure the tyres come up to temp, and then probably set about trying to chase down Brad Shields and Willem Furcher. But just look at the gap Brad Shields has opened. The back section of this circuit really suiting this car. They've spent a lot of time trying to get the horsepower under it. Brad's really happy with the package and it's working for him here.
Well, even now, Lacey under a little bit of challenge from Mantikos in the Mark II V8. So they come up towards the top end of the track. There's turn 10 through to turn 11. And speaking of how quick that Fiat is around the back of the track, it's not too shabby on the straights either.
No, exactly. And Nick Mantikos' car also is not actually just a full mark car, is it? It's had the changes made to be sports sedans legal and eligible, so he's a Division 2 car, I think, at the moment with his pace.
Yeah, I think eventually that'll be a Division 1 car, and as you said, they've had to change a little bit of the aero, knock off some of the computer aids that that car has to make it fully qualify into Mark V8s.
Oh no.
Steve
Duggan coming
Duggan
around the final corner very, very slow. So dramas with the Aston Martin, and that's going to return to pit lane. By the puffs of smoke out of the exhaust, you'd have to think that there could be another little engine drama there.
Well, we're not sure at this stage, and certainly going in very slowly, unless it's just stopped in gear or something like that. Meantime, there's our battle in Division 3, 2 BMWs, but very different.
Yeah, it's great racing between the pair of them at the moment. Dave Atkin leading the way. It's good to see the Kumho Tyre Prime Race Tyres car up the front there. Of course, last year he had all sorts of dramas with this car, from doors falling off to all sorts of just little niggly things. And finally, in season 2022, he's starting to be able to just complete races and do the whole event. So
yeah, LS powered, of course, and the BMW, the second one in the shot there is BMW powered. So just two different ideas on probably getting around about the same sort of lap speed.
Great competitors on and off the track, these two. They often pit right down next to each other as well. Fred Gessler in behind with a bit of a lock-up, but he's been able to keep the pressure on Dave Atkin and just running around and around at about the same time, about the same pace. Just keeps the pressure on in this fight for Division 3, just ongoing. Absolutely great to see. Gessler to the inside, going to show the nose. Oh, he gets there as well into turn 1. Yeah, that was an authoritative move.
It certainly was. And Aiken, of course, is a busy boy. He supplies the tyres for the category as well. Kumho Tyres being the control tyre for the New South Wales Sports Sedan Championship.
Looks like Gessler's just got a little bit of tyre rub in the rear wheel there once he puts load on it in the middle of the corner. So not sure exactly what's causing that. Doesn't seem to be slowing him down. Then we've got a new car to the category, Gary. John Ford in this beautiful Mercedes.
Yeah, Mercedes C63. It's a How-built car, came out of Germany, had previously raced in Sweden, I believe, running the LS that he had in his Skyline previously. It's basically a Trans Am spec car, but it's on a smaller dimension, so it can never be a Trans Am car, but made along the same line, 4-speed dog box in it, and he's been pretty good so far, hasn't had any dramas. Meanwhile, we go back to this battle for second. Furcher just in front of Lacey, and now Lacey's got his tyres all warmed up. Pretty cool here at this time of the day in the winter of Sydney, of course, and he'll be looking to try and get past Furcher in the Toyota.
It's a great display here between these two cars. Of course, you've got in Furcher's car, it's effectively a chassis car. It's still got most of the bodywork as it was from the Toyota 86 and then, or Subaru BRZ, sorry, and then on the inside is the space frame car of Steve Lacey, just getting past, taking second position, but they're almost the same speed. The qualifying pace was very, very similar. It's more in the race that they just start to have a little bit of difference.
Well, you've got more laps under your belt too, so you're going a bit quicker. Tyres have come up to temperature more so than probably in a qualifying lap. And you'll probably see here that Steve will get away from him, particularly on the straight with a full-blooded 6-litre engine under the bonnet of that Camaro. There's Theo Camburis in the VL Commodore space frame car. He's currently second in Division 2 behind Rod Moynihan, who's debuted a new car this weekend. We'll get to that later. And at the moment he's leading Barry Kelleher in the Trans Am spec Ford Mustang. Of course, he can run that in Trans Am races, but this weekend is electing to have a shot at the Kumho Tyres New South Wales Sports Sedan Championship.
Of course, proudly supported by Real Dairy Australia this weekend at Sydney Motorsport Park. Theo Camburis looking to pick up those Division 2 points and try to get himself into the lead of that championship. Of course, we can't forget there's also the state and club championships going on throughout the Kumho Tyre New South Wales Sports Sedans, and Theo is right in the mix for those as well because of how the points are structured across the 3 divisions for each race meeting.
Nick Mantikos down through turn 2 there, and he's moved right in on the back of Furcher as well. So you see that coming for a couple of laps there, but all of a sudden that gap has diminished somewhat. To different sort of car. Of course, the Mark car, the second car in shot there, is a Coyote powered car, and you can see Furcher now has dropped behind Mantikos, who's moved up another spot.
We got him down into the hairpin at the back of the circuit. So obviously Furcher having a little bit of a struggle late in the race. Might be that the tyres have just gone away from him a bit, or maybe, of course, once the race gets a little bit older, sometimes the car setup doesn't work quite as well later on in the race once you're getting down on the fuel load and all those sorts of things happening inside the car. So it'll be one of those things if he'll just bring it home for a strong result here. Of course, Nick Mantikos now 3rd place in the race. Steve Lacey 2nd. Brad Shields way out in front. He's been lapping consistently all race, just opening the gap out, opening it out. There he is on screen as he comes through the back section of the circuit.
Yeah, should have mentioned too, Mantikos is actually 4th in the championship coming into this round. The other one we didn't mention was Dan Nolan in his Mazda, who unfortunately had dramas in practice on the Friday and is not participating. But in the meantime, there goes Brad Shields across the line. He's taken a fairly strong win. Steve Lacey 2nd, Mantikos in 3rd, then it's Furcher forward in the debut of that car, goes to 5th.
We'll be back after the break with more Kumho Tyres New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship, proudly brought to you by Real Dairy Australia.
Here we are with the starting grid for race 2. Brad Shields on pole, Steve Lacey alongside it. Then it's Mantikos, Furcher, Ford, Camburis, Smith, Kelleher, Geyser and Spiteri out of 10. There are more in behind them, and you can see in the distance there a Monaro. That's the ex-Furcher car that now is in the hands of Moynihan. It's having its debut, and away we go at the start, and already Shields is bolted out in front. Lacey into second, then Furcher is in third spot, Mantikos fourth, but only just.
I was going to say Brad Shields picking up where he left off for race 2, of course, Sunday morning at Sydney Motorsport Park. So cool conditions yet again. You can see the Duggan Aston Martin coming around the outside of the field. Starting from the rear of the grid, he's already picked up about 5 positions, shifted his way up behind the Corvette there of Daniel Smith. So he'll be trying to work past him and continue moving forward.
What we should see in this race at some stage is that Mark Duggan is back. The problem from Saturday's race was that the paddle shift that locked it in gear wasn't working. He had a new steering wheel fitted to that car for Andre Heimgartner, who is scheduled, I think, at this stage today to run the car at the Super 70 meeting coming up in September, when the National Precision Sports Sedan Championship comes, and there he comes through the field. So he's reverted back to his favourite wheel, and all of a sudden all these paddle shift problems have gone away.
Yeah, so it's just all about ergonomic comfort, isn't it, behind the wheel of these things. You've got to get the most pace out of them, as we see down the field. There's Dave Atkin at the back chasing down Rod Monahan. So it's probably been a tough opening lap for Dave Atkin, because he was in front of 3 or 4 cars at the beginning of it, which just is the way sometimes it plays out with how you get balked around the circuit. Because of course we saw him fighting this man on screen, Fred Gessler, in race 1, and now the Division 3 battle has shifted the other way, and in the middle of it all is the Brenda Bella car, of course, of John Spiteri, which races across multiple events, multiple other categories, but is part of sports sedans as well, and we often see John getting a great result in that car.
Yeah, Trevin jumps into that car and does improve production, then John jumps in and does sports sedans, and often they might be at the same race meeting. So it's just a change of tyres and away they go. But here's a great battle going on. They've renewed this dice that they had in race 1, and this time Furcher seems to have the upper hand on Mantikos.
He wants none of it, does he? This time he's like, no, I'm going to stay in front of you, Nick, and charge down the main straight. So Mantikos a little bit more work to do. Out in front, Brad Shields continues leading the way. He's opened up a pretty solid gap through the midsection of this race, so he should be able to just bring it home, you'd have to think, sit back and make sure to manage the gap.
Yeah, and it'll give him good points, because they had dramas at a previous round where they had a oil pressure drop, I guess, and decided to take the vehicle home to have a look at it, and it was all too much. That was down at Wakefield Park, so too much to do to bring it back, so they opted not to run the car. And of course Brad Shields is running around in the Carrera Cup at the moment as well, so he's got multiple programs going on. Here's Feo Camburis. He'll be looking to take the lead in Division 2 with a strong result in race 1, and already leading the Division 2 boys in race 2 with Dan Smith in behind him in the Corvette.
Yeah, Barry Kelleher sitting there as well in the Mustang, just trying to hold the position as they all battle it out in the Kumho Tyre New South Wales Sports Sedans Division 2. Proudly brought to you this weekend by Real Dairy Australia. Camburis is opening that gap up as those two behind start to dice. You saw them passing for position, and actually it looks like Kelleher's door might have opened. Furcher's slowed as well, so that's not ideal for him. And at the same time, Brad Shields is slowed. So two at different ends of the circuit, and cars slowing at the same time.
Well, all we can tell you at this stage is that they've both lost drive.
They have, yeah.
We don't know why, but they have lost drive, and that's unfortunate, because if Brad Shields had got 3 wins here, he could put himself back in pretty good strong point situation. But at the moment, we're looking at back in Kelleher and Smith having a good run there as Duggan leads them both around through turn 11 onto the straight. So that's an interesting scenario we have now, because that would put Steve Lacey in front.
It does, as Kelleher continues to lead Smith. You had a bit of a look at him there. Smith obviously stronger around the back section of the circuit. Now he'll try to dive up close again behind him into turn 2. I don't think he's going to quite be there though, and you can just see the yellow flags out for Brad Shields. We're coming towards the end of this race, so Brad Shields got very close to taking 2 from 2, but that Joe Sed's Fiat now parked up against the edge of the track, and yellow flag through that zone so that we can get this race completed, as Dan Smith starts to look all over the back of Keller there, but nothing for Smith in that beautiful Corvette. I think that's the ex-Paul Bochet car.
I was going to say, I think it pretty much is that car, because Smith has been running an LS-powered Toyota Supra in previous rounds, so this is the first time that I can think of that he's come out in this car. Obviously still learning to get the grips with this one as he slides it through turn 10 and brings it out onto the straight.
He's going all he can to chase Kelleher. Meanwhile, Duggan has closed the gap to Kumho as well as we come towards the end of this one. But Daniel Smith throwing everything he can at Kelleher here. Coming down through turn 1. He's a lot closer than he was last lap. You'd have to think he'll be able to do something at turn 2. But out in front, the man who's inherited the lead stayed there or thereabouts with Brad Shields the whole way. But it's going to be the Real Dairy Australia Lederer car that comes across the line to take a victory. Steve Lacey has picked up another one, and that will help his championship campaign.
Well, certainly put him on the right track, at least with two solid results, a second and a first. There it is. Mantikos was second, Ford in third, Duggan fourth, Camboris, Kelleher, Smith, Spiteri, Giesler and Aiken in 10th position.
We'll be back after the break with more Real Dairy Australia New South Wales sports stands at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Well, Lacey finds himself back on the pole position for this one after he was on pole for race 1. Mantikos alongside of him on the front row. Then we've got the result that we had in the second race with the starting grid for this one. Brad Shields off the back, and hopefully he's made. He has. They had a broken diff in race 2 when they went home, made the changes and got it back here to take part in this race. Duggan, of course, is back there. Furcher, we believe, had a driveline issue. Someone was telling me that he was walking around the pits with an axle and a CV joint attached to the end of it, so it was one or the other was the problem, but fortunately he's back out there as well.
And look at the way Brad Shields has carved through the field in these early stages. He's already up inside. I think it's about the top 6 positions here, all over the back of Mark Duggan, less than half a lap through. Willem Furcher's no slouch coming through either. He's only 2 cars further back, so while Shields' drive is impressive, Furcher's matching him as best he can. Down the inside goes Shields to pass the other red car and gets in front of Duggan. Next up will be John Ford in that beautiful Mercedes, which hopefully we'll get to see a lot more of in a few more battles in upcoming rounds.
Well, when he gets more and more used to the car, his biggest problem at the moment is heel and towing, because he's not used to doing that.
Yeah.
But he's coming to grips with it and had a solid 2 results already. Obviously not up to the pace of these front runners at the moment, but the speed will come.
It'll get there, that's for sure. As Brad Shields to the inside takes Mantikos. Looked like in the background Willem Furcher was about to go past John Ford as well on the straight, but that puts Brad Shields into effectively second in the race, doesn't it now?
Yeah.
So he's just got to try to chase down Steve Lacey. Lacey would have put his head down to open up as big a gap as he could, knowing Shields was going to come through.
Well, he's certainly got pace. He's shown that in the first 2 races that he's the fastest car out there. And whether he's got the time to get towards our race leader, we get to see it at this stage. Not in sight.
No, he's got to try to put the foot down and see what he can do further back. And we've got Willem Furcher all over the back of Duggan now around the final corner. So Willem continues this charge in the Chev Power 86. And a little bit of drop off down the main straight. That, of course, Aston Martin, a previous National Sports Sedans Championship, that body at least, a lot of the underneath has changed over the last few years, as with generally happens in sports sedans, the development of new parts and lifetime of parts and all of those things. And Duggan Family Hotels, the Duggan team have put a lot of effort into this car and continuing its legacy. And now all over the back of him is Willem Furcher.
Yeah, the Aston Martin's got a brand new engine for this meeting as well.
Yeah.
And obviously this is just more or less a testing session for Duggan, where he hopes to have Heimgartner in this car coming up to the Precision National Sports Sedan Championship round in early September, the Father's Day weekend. The Super 70 meeting put on by the ARDC should be a good one.
There's going to be a huge field of cars, more than 30 sports sedans slated to come out, so make sure to get out there to support them as we continue watching the Kumho Tyre New South Wales Sports Sedans, proudly brought to you by Real Dairy Australia. Brad Shields has closed the gap on Steve Lacey. Oh, not just closed it,
Gone.
down the inside at turn 4.
Well, I'd say at this stage, Steve's got the round wrapped up, so he's not going to, as you mentioned earlier, not wanting to endanger that by pushing too hard.
Yeah.
Gets a second here. He's got 2 seconds and a first for the meeting. That puts him to the top of the points if he continues it on this way.
And he just he's focused on that championship, of course. He doesn't like having the 78 on the doors. He prefers the number 1. Had it for a couple of years, but the competition at the top end of New South Wales Sedans over the last few seasons has been intense. Of course, Brad Shields is the defending champion after finally getting the championship in Joe Sed's little Fiat Rotary there. That's in front of the race now. Also can't forget Birrell Chetton, who really this round's been a bit of a disaster for him this year, not getting to compete in any races, and that's going to lose him the championship lead to Steve Lacey if things stay as they are.
Yeah, unfortunately for Chetton, because he was looking to just consolidate, because he had a fairly handy points lead. He had something like 13 points in front of Nolan, who wasn't running this meeting, so he was potentially going to be looking at a fantastic lead. Unfortunately, as we reiterated earlier, out with a crash in qualifying, came out of turn 8 and just got it all wrong and just backed into the concrete wall.
Which is just one of those unfortunate things. As we look at the Division 3 battle, the Spiteri has managed to get himself to the front of it here. So Gessler and Atkin trying to chase down the Mitsubishi, the two BMWs. They were in front in the earlier races, and now Spiteri late in the weekend has managed to get the upper hand. So have to see if Gessler can do anything about this, as they're all over the back of the Mustang in front of them as well. So I'd have to think that the Trans Am car of Kelleher is just not quite got the pace that he's had all weekend. He might just be a little old on the tyres and a little late in the afternoon as well, and getting a bit tired and things like that. So have to see what's going on here. But his door's also flicking open there. Just having a look at the car as he comes around turn 3 and 4. So when he goes round the right-handers, the driver's door is flicking open, so he might be struggling with just trying to get that latched properly as well late in the race.
Well, the potential is for a black flag as well. Just to reiterate the divisions. The divisions are based on lap times around Sydney Motorsport Park. In our case, it's anything under a 1:37 for Division 1, under 1:42 for Division 2, and over 1:42. That's 1 minute 42 for Division 3.
Kelleher just went to the lane there, so obviously a drama with the car that he can't fix, as Duggan under pressure from Willem Furcher still in this race. Furcher's got to Duggan and just not been able to make any further improvement into the field. Nick Mantikos only slightly up the road, close enough to probably still be feeling the pressure from these guys, because every time he'd look in the mirror he'd see a blue and a red car. You just want to keep eking that gap out slightly. But Duggan doing a great job to hold Furcher behind. We know the potential of that car behind him, so Duggan will be able to take something out of this and know that he can comfortably run up with these front guys as well.
Well, he's had two reliable results at least.
Yep.
At this stage anyway. We don't want to put the rocker on him getting close to the checkered flag in this one, but still holds on to the lead, and we know the potential of the Furcher car, because as I said earlier, it won the last round here, so at this particular venue.
Willem also run around last year, didn't he, in that car? So
yeah, well, Willem wasn't driving it last time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This is his actual first outing this year, because round 1 they had dramas with they broke an input shaft in practice, and therefore didn't really get to start.
It's always the way, isn't it, as they come past Fred Axissa here on the back straight. So Willem Furcher just sitting in behind, going to try to have a look. Oh, he's pinched the brake there. Oh, a big pinch of the brake. Unfortunately, a meeting in the middle there in the turn 6. So just one of those unfortunate things when you're trying to get around a bit of lap traffic.
Yeah, it certainly was. Here's our race leader coming onto the straight. He's had one win already. He's had a DNF, but he's come back strong in this one to score a second win for the weekend. Second will go to the round winner in Steve Lacey. Tikos was third, then Duggan, Furcher, Ford. Camporis again takes Division 2 ahead of Smith, Geeser and Spiteri. Rounds out our 10.
Down in the pits, we caught up with Brad Shields to have a chat about winning that final race and his weekend.
Yeah, we blew a diff, I think 2 laps to go in race 2, so it was a bit disappointing, but yeah, it's one of those things, sort of can't help it. With the power we're putting through the car now, these things happen, but the rest of the weekend went really well. Yeah, it was good, especially after Joe, Tony and all the guys put in a huge effort to replace the diff between the races, so made all the hard work worth it. It's hard work, it's pretty hot as you can see, but yeah, it's an absolute weapon. Now that we've got the 13B turbo running well, it's just it's an absolute beast. Yeah, I think Muscle Car Masters next round with the combined national round, so that should be really cool. Put ourselves up against the national guys and see how we go, so yeah, looking forward to that one.
So, at the end of round 3 in the Kumho Tyres New South Wales Sports and Air Championship, Steve Lacey leads the way on 161 points. We caught up with our new championship leader, Steve Lacey.
Yeah, look, it's a fantastic result for the team. Huge thank you to our sponsors, Lederer and Real Dairy, always supporting us and getting us through, obviously, the tough rounds we've had. But to win a whole round this weekend has been fantastic. And a pole and 1 win in 2 seconds, it's pretty good. Yeah, look, that should put us now back up the top after, obviously, a couple of DNFs earlier in the season. It was unfortunate for Beryl to be out this weekend and Daniel, so that sort of gave us a bit of a window, but you take them when you get them. Yeah, look, the car's been reliable all weekend, so touch wood, we're past those issues that we're having the last 2 rounds and up at Bathurst. I think today might have been a bit of youth and experience from Brad. I mean, he's a very good driver and he's in cars every weekend. And half my age.
That's all the time for this round of the Kumho Tyre New South Wales Sports Sedans Championship, proudly brought to you by Real Dairy Australia. The series now heads to Sydney Motorsport Park on September 3 and 4 as part of the ARDC Super 70. Make sure to get out trackside and support some great grassroots motorsport. Until then, we hope you've enjoyed it all here on Blendline TV. Bye for now.